Hello, I'm Abhijeet Ghosh in 8th grade, and today I will be presenting various endocrine system pathways using the real world scenario of a plane crash. I'll be discussing some background information on negative feedback loops and the various endocrine pathways that occur when you board the plane and you're cold, when you get hungry as you're waiting for your meal, after you eat your dinner, then when the lights go off and you fall asleep, then when the lights come back on and you get awake, and then finally the crash and the post crash stress while you're waiting for your valuables to be recovered from your check in luggage. Now I will discuss the background information of the negative feedback loops. So negative feedback loops occur where the stimulus occurs and then the master gland, usually the hypothalamus, will receive that information from usually the brain, and then that will secrete a hormone, and that will usually follow down a chain of hormone-induced hormone release. For example, hypothalamus sends a hormone to pituitary, then pituitary sends another hormone to thyroid, and then the thyroid releases a hormone that does the final effect. And when that effect is done, then the master gland will detect that effect is done, and it will stop producing the master hormone, which stops the entire chain. And then over time, a couple hours, the external forces will put the body back into its non-homeostatic state, and the cycle will repeat all over again. In most cases, as I said before, it's the hypothalamus is the master gland, but there are a few exceptions. One of them is the pancreas, where the pancreas itself detects the high blood sugar or low blood sugar, and itself releases and regulates the hormone. So now our character boards the plane and he is cold. So hypothalamus receives the signal from brain that cold and releases thyrotropin releasing hormone, which goes to the pituitary, and then the pituitary gland, the anterior pituitary, will release thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, or also called thyrotropin. And then this goes to thyroid, and thyroid releases the thyroid 3 hormone, and that thyroid 3 increases metabolism, and in severe cases it starts shivering, and this will increase the body's temperature. And then, as I said, with the negative feedback loop, the hypothalamus receives that it's not cold anymore, and this entire process stops. The flight has been going for a couple hours, you're at cruising altitude, and now you're kind of hungry. And you're burning lots of blood sugar, so your blood sugar is low. And then the pancreas has some alpha cells in it, and they detect the low blood sugar and then release glucagon. The same cell detects and releases the hormone. And then this goes to the liver and a couple other areas, but mainly the liver, and it breaks down glycogen, which is a polymer of glucose, into glucose, and this is called glycogenolysis. And then the blood sugar will increase as this new formed glucose is deposited into the blood. So finally, the flight attendants bring you your dinner, and you ate it, and the gut digested it, and it deposited all that sugar into the blood. So then the pancreas has beta cells that again detect the high blood sugar and release insulin, and this insulin goes to other places, but mainly the liver, and then the liver does glycogenesis and converts their blood sugar, sucks it out of the blood and converts it into glycogen, which is stored in the liver. And then also some adipocytes start sucking in the blood sugar and converting it to triglycerides for long-term storage, like a couple of weeks. And then the blood sugar lowers, the pancreas stops sending insulin, and the process reverses in a negative feedback loop. So the flight attendants just turn the light off after you ate your dinner, since it's bedtime, and your retina stops sending signals to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is also the biological clock, and then the biological clock stops sending neural signals to the superior cervical ganglion, or the SCG, and then the SCG, when it stops receiving signals, it starts sending norepinephrine to the pineal endocrine gland, and the pineal gland starts sending melatonin throughout the body, and the main receptor of melatonin is actually the biological clock, which resets itself when it receives that melatonin. But the reason that the biological clock needs to go in this roundabout way is that the melatonin also affects some other areas, such as the heart, which reduces its heart rate, blood pressure, the vessels will dilate, which means the blood pressure will decrease, and digestion increases during night since you have less energy to spend on muscles and stuff, so it can spend more energy on digestion. So now there's a malfunction in the plane in the middle of your sleep and the lights turn back on. So it's kind of a reverse of what happened previously. So the retina resumes sending signals to the biological clock. The biological clock resumes sending signals to the SCG. The SCG stops or sends less norepinephrine to the pineal gland. Less melatonin or no melatonin at all is sent throughout the body. And then the GI tract kind of reduces until your next meal. Then the blood vessels again constrict to increase the blood pressure and the heart speeds up, as well as when there's less melatonin, the biological clock can't reset itself, which means you're awake. Now here's one of the larger reactions. So you've just been informed that they're crash landing and panic ensues in your brain, as it will. And then when that sends the neural signals to the actual neural tissue in the adrenal gland's medulla, and that releases epinephrine and norepinephrine. Epinephrine and norepinephrine can be in the bloodstream as a hormone or as a neurotransmitter when it goes between neurons, so it's kind of both. And then this epi and norepinephrine targets a lot of places. So first of all, triglycerides from adipocytes, basically the fat, are cut up into fatty acids and glycerol. Fatty acids are sent directly to muscle, and the muscle can directly convert them to ATP, while the glycerol goes to the liver, as well as some amino acids floating in the blood and some glycogen. Again, glycogen is stored right in the liver. It's that polymer of glucose. And then all those get taken into the liver. Glycogen is converted into blood sugar. That's glycogenolysis. Then all these other things, amino acids and glycerol, get converted into blood sugar. That is gluconeogenesis. And then now that we have increased blood sugar and nutrients, heart rate beats faster, but blood pressure increases due to vasoconstriction, which means more nutrients get pumped into the muscles, as well as you don't need to be digesting, you don't need to be filtering out your blood, you don't need that much energy in your skin in a fight or flight emergency response. So those all get even more vasoconstriction, so that you don't get many nutrients at all. And then finally the lungs start, the respiration, bronchioles expand, the bronchi expand, and the diaphragm starts pumping harder to get more oxygen into the air. And then this all reverses when the short-term panic ends. This is short-term panic, like trying to escape out of a crash. Long-term panic, and now I'll discuss long-term panic or stress. So you've landed and you're safe, you have the food, water, shelter you need, but there's lots of valuables, like thousands of dollars of gifts in your check-in bag, and you don't want to lose them. So your brain gets stressed, obviously, and that stretch kind of stretches out for a couple of weeks, and then that's when the hypothalamus realizes you've been so stressed and sends CRH, or corticotrophin releasing hormone, to the pituitary, and then pituitary releases, it's called corticotrophin, or ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, and then that is sent to the zona fasciculata, which is what releases cortisol of the adrenal gland. So cortisol is released, and then cortisol, first thing it does, very similar to how you got blood sugar with epinephrine and norepinephrine, or that's adrenaline, that's also called. It takes glycogen from the liver, glycogenolysis, and then glycerol from cut up fat. It also takes odd chain fatty acids. And then finally, it catabolizes the muscle with those same enzymes and uses amino acids from the muscles instead of just floating in the blood. It takes all of those and raises the blood sugar when it's actually not needed. You're not trying to race away from anything. So then cortisol also has some antihistamine, anti-inflammatory properties. So it inhibits the immune system. You can get sick quicker. For example, that's why many kids studying for college exams, like finals, get sick very easily at the couple of weeks before the test. And then finally, norepinephrine sensitivity from various organs is increased. So though norepinephrine is same, there's sensitivity. So apparently there's more to those organs. For example, vasoconstriction and heart rate, which we also discussed in the previous crash, which are good when you're trying to run away from burning debris, but it's not good when you're just living your regular life, because high blood pressure is bad, and then the high heart rate is bad in a relaxing environment. But again, this kind of reverses because it's only been a couple of weeks when your luggage is finally recovered. But this can be more of a problem if it's for years and years, like chronic stress. These are the various resources and videos I used for the information in this PowerPoint. I did study many other topics in all of my events. However, I found the endocrine system to be the most intriguing. Therefore, my PowerPoint focuses on the endocrine system. I hope you found my presentation informative and interesting. Thank you all for listening. Bye bye.